So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to create wealth. And by wealth, I'm not talking about making a couple of $1 million or a couple of $100,000. I'm talking about making nine figures in wealth or above, 9 to 10 figures. So this is going to be a video which is going to be provide you the perspective of what's happening in the world and how do the rich actually make the money. So if you're new to this channel, my name is Prithvi Chauhan. I'm the founder and managing director of a healthcare investment company, and we are in the business of buying multi-million-dollar businesses. In the last 3 years, as a 29-year-old, I have managed to negotiate a $3.5 million deal, a $10 million deal, a $25 million deal, a $120 million deal, and a $140 million deal. I have spoken with public companies that were, doing, billion-dollar public companies. I've met with bankers that have financed, $300 million deals. I have business partnerships with lawyers that have advised on a $13 billion bank merger. I have in my team as my business partner a CEO of a $3.5 billion public company. I have been in partnerships with former retired partners from big four accounting firms, PwC, KPMG, senior partners who were retired. I've been in partnerships with them. They're still my partners. And then, I've been around high profile executives, and I've been around pretty heavy hitters, and I've seen deals and deal sizes and revenue sizes which were beyond my imagination. So and I've had the opportunity of spend a lot of time with these individuals, and I have gained tremendous amounts of exposure and information and knowledge that most people do not have, because they are not exposed to this kind of environment, because this environment is very guarded, and it has its own rules, and it's very tough to get into these environments. But because I was trained by Dan Pena, I found myself, I cultivated a position where I have access to these individuals. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about, wealth creation secrets. This is going to be a guide that you can, and this is just to give you a perspective. I will not be able to provide you a step-by-step execution plan in this video, but this is just to give you an overview of how things work, and it's going to open up your mind completely. So watch till the end, and if you're new to this channel, subscribe, hit that subscribe button, because I post one video a day on business and finance, and it's a long form content where I go deep into technical stuff and make it simple for people. So let's get started. I mean, if you want to make $100 million, couple of $100 million, $1 billion, let's take a hypothetical scenario here. Let's assume you want to make that kind of money. That money needs to come from some place. It has to come from some source. Do you have in your network individuals, not companies, but individuals who can write a check to you for $1 billion, $100 million? Probably not. And even if they could, most likely they wouldn't just give it to you. Okay, so that option is off the table. So let's analyze in a country, in a region where the money is. There is a Pareto principle saying that 80% of the wealth is with 20% of the people, or 80% of a wealth of a nation is in 20% of the places. So we are going to locate those places where the money actually is. So here is where the money is. You have different large, gigantic pools of capital situated in different region, different areas in a country. Okay, let's identify them. The number one biggest pool of capital is the government. Okay, the government collect huge taxes, and hence they have a big pool of capital. They have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. I remember watching an interview with Donald Trump where he said that they just invested a few $1 trillion to renew their nuclear weapons. Okay, so just imagine if they had that money to invest, how much money they actually had. Okay, so that's the biggest pool, the government. Where else is the money? Coming down, the banks. The banks have a lot of money. Who else got the money? Big pools of capital. I'm talking hundreds of billions. Insurance companies. Okay. Then you've got large public companies, right? When companies go public, large crowds pay them, buy their shares. So large crowds are paying to public companies, and there are billion-dollar public companies. So stock exchange markets and public companies have a lot of money flowing. Private equity firms. The fund, you make a couple of $1 million, you want someone to manage that money, you put it in a private equity firm, somebody else takes decisions for you, that firm, private equity. Then venture capital firms have a lot of money. VCs and private equity are kind of similar to each other. Hedge funds and government funds, and I'm just naming a few off the top of my head, but there are many more. Okay, there are online companies which are payment providers that have a pool of capital. For example, Stripe is offering loans now, and Facebook is offering loans, and there are many types of sources of capital, basically. So there are these large congregations or collections of money in different parts of the world. If you want to build wealth, you have to find a way to engage these institutions. You got to come up with a business model that circulates within this network. And this network is very well connected with each other. They're very tight. So there are institutions which have all this money, and there are decision makers within the institutions. Okay, it's just people. And these institutions are there to do business with you. Okay, they are established, incorporated for you to do business with them. Legal, fair, honest, they're there to do business. Okay, as long as you are legal, fair, honest. So you gotta have that as your fundamental. They don't want to deal with people who are doing illegal things. So be compliant with the law always. But this is the circle. It's much easier to make $100 million from these institutions than to collect $1,000 trying to get customers. 1,000 here, 5,000 here, 2,000 here, 3,000 here, 1,000 here, because the time is limited. So if you're spending time on $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 opportunities, you are actually leaking time. And this is the reason, if you come up with a thesis, how do I make $100 million? I'm making couple of $1,000 and I'm giving so much of time for it, is because you're positioned in a wrong manner. You're positioned for a couple of $1,000 opportunity. You're not positioned to do business with these institutions. And you don't have a business model that can position you with these individuals, because there has to be a value proposition with these institutions for you to do business with them. You need a solid business model, you need a solid team, you need a lot of experience, you need technical skills. And the reason you need technical skills on your team is because Otherwise, if you didn't need technical skills, anybody would be doing it. The reason there is a barrier to entry, you need technical skills and experience. Now, most of the people just run away the moment they see something needs a technical skill or an experience. So it's a very guarded community. That's why I said. But I mentioned in one of my videos that you don't have to have the technical skills and experience. You can partner up with people who do and who will compensate for your lack of technical skills and experience, and all you got to do is have leadership skills to manage them. So once you are positioned with them, let's assume you have a business model. Let's identify some business models that work with these people. Number one, government contracts. Okay, government gives contracts to build roads, maybe a building, construction, whatever, to companies. You can position yourself here, take the contract and delegate it to a reputable company, get into business partnerships with, and you can make money like that. So that's a big pool of capital that you will have access to. And these government deals can go up to anywhere between a couple of $1 million to billions of dollars of contracts. For example, I know an energy company based in UAE that does business globally with many governments, and they are purely into government contracts. It's an oil and gas company, and the CFO of that company was my business partner. We are not partners anymore, but he was my business partner. And I went to their offices and I saw how things are done. I met their owners, and they do this and they want to go public. So anyway, so you have the government contracts, that's one business model. Then you have got real estate. Okay, real estate, you know about this very well. I don't need to go into too much detail, but you get loan from the bank. Again, you're using the bank and you're acquiring real estate assets that are producing cash, and you're using the cash flow to pay off the debt. And you do many deals and you'll make that money. Grant Cardone is a great example of that. Robert Kiyosaki is a great example of that. But there is another business model which is known as mergers and acquisitions, which is buying businesses. So if you identify an industry which has a lot of businesses for sale, they're not sale on a website, they are businesses who want to sell and they don't have a plan. So you can call them, you can reach out to them, and you can buy their businesses and buy several businesses and become a big business. And you can use the banks. So in this business model, you will be using the bank's money to buy multi-million-dollar businesses. Again, you're using one of the financial institutions, collecting a bunch of assets. Okay, doing several deals, 10, 20 deals. And then eventually, when you have this big company, you have two options. You can sell this whole portfolio to a private equity firm, which is again a pool of capital, or you can list it on the stock exchange market, which is another pool of capital will be attracted to that. Many wallets. The principle here is that you want to be connected to many wallets. Ask yourself, how many wallets are you connected to right now? Most people are connected to one wallet, their job, maybe a side income, or if you're a business owner, few customers. Okay, and the bigger the pool of customers, the more money you make. But you want to be connected to many wallets, and you want to be connected to wallets that are very big in size. And you got to get into a business that deals with these institutions. So you can raise money from banks, insurance companies, and several financial institutions. You can use that money, borrow the money cheaply, acquire assets, and then sell it at a high price. Typically, you can sell companies for double than what you paid. But you didn't pay them from your own money. You took it from a bank. Bank lends the money to assets, cash flow producing assets. That's who the bank wants to give the money to. So you took the loan, acquired the assets, took money from one pool of capital, acquired the asset, and sold it to another fund. So you borrowed, acquired, and sold at a higher price. And that's the whole game of investment business, M&A, mergers and acquisitions. You buy low, you buy low and you sell high. And most people are extremely scared of debt. The moment you mention debt, I don't want to go there. I want to do business with my own money. You know, I remember one of my aunts called me. He said, "Great, Prithvi, you're doing business. Just don't take a loan. Just don't take a loan. You know, you do it, whatever small thing you want to do, just don't take a loan." Some people really have this as a principle. They hold on to it. Never going to take a loan. But that's a stupid strategy. If you have a cash flow producing asset that can pay off the debt, and you get to be the shareholder of that company, the major shareholder, and you can pay off the debt with interest, and the banks make the money, and you take the position and you make the money, what's the problem? But without debt, you will not have the access to all of these institutions. You need debt. Most of the 9-figure companies, 10-figure companies have used debt to grow that much. Now they have used debt wisely. They have had professionals advising them who had experience. You need lawyers, you need financial professionals who have 25, 30 years of experience, who have done this. As a preliminary step to even attempt this, you have to build a team with a solid foundation of experience and technical skills. You need the right combination of those people for you to even attempt this, and you need to take their advice. You know, I'm not a finance or a legal expert. You need other financial and legal experts who will help you do this. And the banks will give the money to entrepreneurs who have people like that on their team. So it's a bit chaotic, but I hope I could make it clear that money has to come from some place, and that place has to be a fund that is a combination of many wallets, right? Ultimately, it's going to come from some wallet, and you got to borrow the money to acquire assets which are cash flow producing, and you got to build companies through buying other companies and then sell it to a private equity firm or list it on the stock exchange market, and that way you will have large pools of capital one day coming to you from a fund. Okay, so that was the video on how to create wealth. It was an overview, obviously. I cannot make a video on how to create wealth in 18 minutes or 20 minutes, but that's to give you a snippet about positioning. Positioning is extremely important. If you're positioned around an opportunity that's paying you $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, then you will not even be able to allow yourself to think about 9 figures. Because how? If you have taken a vow, you will never take debt. And if you have taken a vow that I'm not going to do anything that I don't have technical expertise or experience, then how will 9 figures happen? It won't. So the first barrier about debt, there is good debt and bad debt. And about technical skills and experience, you can bring people on your team that you can partner up with that has the technical experience. So, and then you leverage their experience to acquire businesses that are already established using one pool of capital, take positions, and then sell it to another pool of capital. That's the whole investment business right there. In terms of principles and foundations, it's that simple. There are technical aspects of the business that needs to be covered by experienced professionals who have technical skills, but in principle, this is what you're doing in an investment company, in company which buys other companies and creates large companies out of that. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you soon.